Anina Net is a fashion entrepreneur, a tech genius. I'm so excited for today on Biz Dev Live. We're going to get into it all and more right after the Biz Dev theme.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.
Anina Net, CEO of 360 Fashion Network. In the fashion world, there are a number of entrepreneurs that are constantly changing the status quo. For top models and CEO Anina Net, her passion for technology drove her to build new platforms for fashion using tech, despite the hesitation from the fashion industry. Coming from a family of computer engineers, Anina grew up exploring and learning about the dazzling intricacies of technology. Much to her family's dismay, she developed a love for modeling and pursued a successful career during her adult life. I personally became a fashion model because I was hated in school. Lots of people were really mean to me, and I got this streak inside that I said, as I'm going to show you all how it's done, and then no one can touch me. As I evolved, I think fashion modeling really trained me to be a really great entrepreneur, says Anina Net. Her status as global top model inspired her to use the megaphone she has given to create a new mode of fashion that incorporated the tech, making waves in fashion and dubbing her the tech model within the industry. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with me, Anina Net.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to share my story with your entire audience. I'd be super, thrilled to have any comments or questions. And tell me, where do we start?
So talk to us about what you're doing. I know you have a conference coming up. You're designing so many different products. You can even tell us about a couple of different products, why you're in China and what you're doing there and how you're interacting with the world. I'd love to hear all of that to get us started.
Yes, so I came to China in December because I was finishing to build a robot, a luxury robot. And I got stuck here in the pandemic and the whole thing got derailed, which is was quite an incredible adventure. Ended up shipping masks to people all over the world because, while I was sitting here, people were reaching out to me. And 2 weeks ago, I got that robot into a box, and it is on its way to the EU to get programmed up with artificial intelligence. And so I'm making things of the future. So who would know that contactless, service would be a thing? And, I think that a lot of the products that I've designed came out of my own need and my own sort of vision of the future. For example, all of my wearable tech for women is because, most wearable tech is sort of created as a unisex type of gadget, right? Always in black, kind of rubbery. And I think that we really need more culture in technology that really creates, this individualism. I understand from the tech perspective why companies don't do that, but I think that there's real value in that. So my wireless charging wallets come in, 18 different colors. I've just launched the first collection and they have 5,100 milliamps, super easy to use, and they look really stylish. I think that as women, there's not a lot of options for us out there. We love fashion. And as, this new paradigm, this new future comes nearer to us, we're going to see more and more technology becoming invisible.
I love it. And talk to us about this tech conference got coming up, or maybe I'm misquoting the type of conferences it is, but tell me about this conference that you got coming up.
Fashion technology. So
Fashion
again,
technology.
you know, you look super stylish, by the way, today, and I
Thank you
love
very much.
your whole colors. I
I
think
don't
we
have,
need.
I definitely want to put a pin in this, but I want to talk about the fact that I feel like I'm a little nerdy. I got a pretty cool setup here with this. I just put up my stand-up desk, not only because I wanted to kind of enhance the show, but my back was suffering from sitting down, which gets into, how tech really helps us, right? I mean, there's so many things that can really, you can bridge a barrier. Now we're all working from home. So what's the tech that's going to allow us, whether it's in our clothing or office, wherever, right? How is it going to help us kind of move forward? So I love that you're innovating, that you're pushing the barriers on this, because I feel like it's really needed.
Well, I mean, we could go off on a tangent there on smart home and things that are connected to
We
the internet.
we will talk to us about your conference, and then because I want to get into your story,
Oh,
right? I want
yes.
to get into your background. So talk to us about this conference that you got coming up, and then we'll come back around to it.
Absolutely. So it's called the Digital Fashion Online Conference, and it really is bringing together both the fashion and the technology side, because I believe we have to get together to design the future. People aren't going to use tech if it's ugly, if it's not ergonomic, if it's not comfortable, it doesn't fit in their lives. And those are all things that fashion professionals are really great at. And on the same time, just fashion doesn't cut it anymore. We need everything around us to do more, be connected. So why? Because we want to be able to have more time for ourselves, more time for our families. And I believe that when, we have smart homes, better equipment, smart clothing, that all of these things are going to play together to remove the friction that we have right now in life. So I'm super excited for the future, and I'm going to present a lot of speakers at the Digital Fashion Online Conference who have technologies that can be implemented, who are, disrupting fashion with 3D and design, and also who have products that can, bring us stylishly into the future.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I was watching some of the videos on the 3D printing aspects, the ways that's changing stuff. So I'm excited to get into it. But tell us why you got into all this crazy tech stuff, right? So how did you get into fashion entrepreneurship, combining fashion and technology? I understand that your parents kind of had a tech background. So how did it come full circle here from you being a child of techies, becoming a model, and then becoming the CEO of this company that's really pushing barriers on fashion and tech?
Yeah, so, I really accredit the fact that I got into tech simply because I was never excluded. And, I have two brothers, and when my dad said, hey, let's fork out the hard drive out of this computer, it wasn't, you boys come over here and do that. It was like, you kids come over here and do that. And I watched a lot of my female friends, not having had any experience with computers, technology, and then always being frustrated and afraid of it. When my brothers went to code camp in the summer, I had to go to code camp. It was just expected of me. And I really believe that, being born with that digital spoon in my mouth gave me, those 10,000 hours of practice that you need to become a master before, everyone else. So, when I decided, though, because I was a girl, and what girl doesn't want to walk on the catwalks of Paris and be glamorous? When my brothers sort of went off to university, yeah, I took a left and went off to the University of Fashion Modeling. And I really do believe that being a fashion model gave me all the skills that I need as an entrepreneur. And I'm super grateful for it. The fact that, when I got out into the real world and had digital products and services and to sell, I realized that, customer retention and, customer acquisition and all these acronyms were just the same as in modeling, Had to go out, get clients, make them love you, do a great job. How you got to be famous was that you would have repeat clients, that they would book you for bigger and bigger jobs as they, gained confidence in you and your abilities to be easy to work with, to do great creative, feats. They would take you with them on trips because they knew that you would go above and beyond what was required in an 8-hour day. All these kind of things, really, I think in any business, give you the competitive advantage. The same when I got to China and I had the opportunity to work with the, China central, government controlling all of the fashion industry. There's just no such thing as like, oh, that's not in my job description. It's roll up your sleeves and get the job done. Same thing. I was blessed to work with Intel, and I created 350 gloves. We showcased 162 of them on CCTV at midnight. I mean, that was simply what it takes. When you work on this really high level, I think people don't really understand whether you're a top model, whether you have a level client, whether you're servicing, on the government levels. It is the high level of service to provide to these customers. There's really no boundaries to, me sitting down with 20 people around me and we need to cut these stickers out, huge 9-meter stickers that get stuck on the wall to trigger the AR. Nobody knows what to do except me. And so here I go and I start cutting it out, and then they are all watching me. They get the idea. We don't even speak the language, the construction companies and I, for example, in China. But, there I am on the floor. And I don't know if recently you heard about the Clubhouse, Elon Musk talking on there. But he said, in those crunch times, he sleeps in a sleeping bag outside of his office so that all his staff can see that he's there with them, And it reminded me of the Intel job. The first day that we tried out all the gloves on the models, they were wrecking ball machines. Those models broke all the gloves, and we had to go back the next day with those gloves, and we were all there, the whole team, even the secretary, soldering those gloves together. And, we had to be up and those gloves had to work the next day. Otherwise, we would get eliminated from the CCTV, so
I want to kind of jump in here and talk about, this idea of consistency. It's been a lot on my mind, just in terms of anything. I know Elon Musk, I was just kind of peeking at stuff because I try to stay off it during the weekends, but every room was like Elon Musk something. And the only reason I sort of think of like Elon Musk, and I was watching something that was really cool from old video of Steve Jobs, saying you got to ask for it. Whenever I've asked somebody, most times, most people have given. Obviously, that's a little bit of a privilege kind of thing for some folks. But, obviously, that idea of showing up, right? And the idea of making sure that, whatever you're doing, you're putting your full self in, and you have that level of commitment where you're showing up, and the consistency, because you don't get a lot of these things with consistency. Going back to what you were talking about with the model thing, retaining a client, getting bigger and better jobs, showing up. I mean, I think there's probably a big problem with that. You can speak to it probably more than I can, but as I understand it, within that kind of industry, showing up is a big deal, right? You might be a star, you might be somebody that's desired, but if you don't show up, that creates a lot of problems, right? So it's who shows up, who does the job, who pushes the envelope. I wanted you to kind of speak to a little bit of that, because I think that's what you were talking on in terms of showing up and making it work. But also the other side of this business coin, because you've been able to be successful as a model and you've been able to be successful as an entrepreneur creating products, this whole idea on the pricing side, because that's something that sort of sticks out to me as a big curiosity. How are you able to demand the rate that you need to work? I know so many people want things for free. If you want the marketing out there, like how do you deal with that side of the business? So two things that I would love for you to just to reiterate the idea of, because I think you were already speaking to it, this idea of consistency, and then, all right, I'm showing up. How do I demand, my seat at the table and that price that I need to get to make all this work?
So, for example, everybody says, you ask anybody, how do you become a top model? And they'll say, it's just luck. No, it's not luck. It is right place, right time. But how do you position yourself to be in the right place at the right time, right? And to have then the luck, right? So just as an example, August is coming in Milan. Everyone is leaving to go on vacation. All the jobs are finished. There are no more jobs. There's not even any castings, right? I stayed into the middle of August, right? Not taking any vacation, nothing, in order to perhaps have the chance that something would arrive. And indeed it did. There was a model or a shoot that went sideways for a major publication for September. There were no models in town. They had no choice but me. And then you slide in. There's a saying that says it's better to be prepared and never asked than to be asked and not prepared, right? And so I think that's really how we create our luck. We position ourselves in the city, in the place, in the conference, in the, in the circle, in all of those places, right? With integrity and, patience, I think. And then you just keep practicing your game. You have to be constantly ready. And that's that consistency, whether it be going to the gym. I'm not really good at that, but, I have to find tons of ways to make myself do it, because what happens if I get, a big movie opportunity, which happened just in January, and I wasn't ready, right? If I was ready, but I'm saying if I wasn't ready, right? So it's like finding those creative ways to make yourself do it. And I also think it's really how bad do you want it? People are at different stages in their careers. Like everybody who left, they probably had enough jobs for the year and they were already, well known and established. So they didn't need to sacrifice, their summer to hang out and wait around, right? So everyone, it really is about, are you hungry? I love it that Les Brown says, are you hungry? And you have to know, if you are, then you're willing to make those types of choices, and you may not get it. But I do know also, again, working with these large scale clients, first year, they didn't have anything for me. I went back again. I kept going back, showing them new stuff, showing what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. And then what happens? You are at the top of their mind. When the moment comes, they call you and they say, Anina, we need your help to go talk to CCTV and build some fashion tech, and boom, you're there, you go, you show up professional, you explain it, you do the handshake, and you get the deal, right? And then you got to fulfill. And there you need a team around you of super professionals who can help you deliver, right? So I would say that those are the two things. You have to position yourself, then you have to be ready for that when that phone call, comes. And I think that's a lot of discipline and training. I don't have a lot of discipline, but I have a lot of hunger.
No, I get it. I think that that's amazing. And I think, for folks that always feel like they're behind the eight ball, they're always catching up, that idea of like, it doesn't have to be that way. You can take steps to make sure that you are prepared, that what's coming. I think, the pandemic is a perfect example of that. Like, we didn't know that there was a pandemic coming, but did we know that there's the possibility that something will happen in the world that will affect our business? Are we saving money? Are we making sure that we have other lines of income coming in? And speaking as somebody that didn't, right? I had a staffing hospitality business that, while my clients were diversified, we had corporate, we had private homes, all that kind of stuff, we didn't have other lines of business that didn't involve live events, right? We could have been selling furniture. We could have been selling, all kinds of things that have to do with hospitality and affiliate relationships and other kinds of things, right? I've had the business for 9 years. So there's enough time in there to build in some other things. So thinking about that and being prepared for the next time. So you did, all right, you weren't prepared this time. All right, lesson learned. How are you going to be prepared for the next time, right? How are you going to be ready? Because we live and we learn and we build. I love that so much. I know that'll probably be a major theme of the conference that you're putting on. Like, how do you prepare and get ready and think ahead and think towards the trends? So how do you do that? I mean, because I love the pocketbooks that have the charging in them. I love the different types of fashion garments that are really fun. How do you think ahead and sort of, create the trend before it's a trend?
I was just, what occurred to me when you were speaking about your business, and I see that a lot in a lot of business owners, they're like, everything is okay. I have income coming in. It's okay. And I see this with large corporations. And if it hadn't been that I was sitting in always with these huge corporations where they bring in like all these people to talk about, all that high level stuff. But what stood out in my mind at Nokia was this one speech, and I don't remember who it is, but I can see it as clear as day in my mind. This guy drew a quadrant on the wall or on the projector, and he said, this is quadrant where you innovate. This is the quadrant that then gets, to the marketing team. This is the quadrant that then does the sales. And this is the quadrant that retires the old tech. And then you go back to the innovation. And if you get stuck in any one of those sectors, you're in trouble, and your business will like basically do a dive bomb the minute that, there's a virus out there, for example, right? And so large scale companies have problems that they get stuck in the sales sector, right? And they're like, we're selling, this is good. But they're not innovating, and they're not retiring these old things, right? And so then what happens is when the world shifts, they're caught out, kind of a little bit like you were saying you weren't looking at the future, looking at online, looking at live streaming, and you got caught out, right? And so I think a lot of people, they see all this cool stuff, on TechCrunch or here or there, and they don't go out and make some experiments with it, right? Yeah. And so then, hey, while everything is booming, we're all good, right? But much like GMO'd food, okay, all the potatoes can withstand everything until one virus comes along and then it kills all the potatoes, right? Because it has that one vulnerability. And I think that's really what that quadrant thing was about, that we have to retire things, even if they're doing well, in order to make room and space to start bringing in some of these new things and thinking about the customer that's coming in the next 5 years. who was born with a digital spoon in their mouth so that they're ready for you when they enter into buying power, right? No, you're not doing AR or, interactive or even online necessarily for this generation. They were born and they probably resist it with like tooth and nail, but it's preparing yourself for longevity, right? The same thing when I started the process of building the wallets, there were no phones with wireless charging in the market. And like, I was like, how am I going to sell these? There's not one phone with wireless charging. So I added a cable on the inside of the wallet for retrospective phones, iOS and Android cable, so that if you had no phone that did wireless charging, you could still charge your phone. Well, by the time these wallets, because wearable tech certification, rolling out a product, it's such a long process. It's like 2-year process, right?
Wow.
18 months. Yeah. By the time they came out in the market, now all the phones have wireless charging, right? And so what's really funny is that I discovered that cable on the inside is for all your accessories, right? So like all your earbuds that die and your, smartwatch or whatever. And so I just thought that was really funny that, tech had moved on. Now everybody had a new iPhone, a new Samsung, wireless charging was everywhere. So right time to market, right? And then this cable that I built in still had functionality. So what I want to say with that is, I was seriously worried, who's going to buy these wallets if there's no phones in the market with wireless charging? But I knew that it was an inevitability because I don't know about you, but like wires, like who didn't solve that problem yet? Like that's just a whole thing that needs to go away, right? And if you look at the way the world is going, then you would see clues of the future.
Right. It's really interesting. I mean, there's so many places this conversation could go. I mean, I think about just the idea of having confidence in an idea, whether it's technology or business service or product, because, having that faith that, the market is moving this way and not going to move another way. I mean, I know with tech, it's such a big deal, like, interoperability, right? So, is this wireless charging platform, is this technology going to be the one that the industry moves forward with? Are they going with the micro USB or the C or the, this and that, like it's really wild because, I know that things can shift quickly. I also think about like big industry stuff. Tesla, right? We've talked about Elon Musk, but Tesla is the most valuable car company in the world. It's not the one that produces the most cars. It's not, it's really crazy. And you look at a company like GE that makes a lot of profit from gas fueled cars, and they have just made a statement of saying, kind of going into, I don't know if they had that quadrant guy in the boardroom making the case and whatever, but they basically said, we're going to kill off our main business. We're going to move totally to electric cars because they're very much on that wavelength of like, we need to innovate. Yes, this is what's right now and working right now, but that's not going to be what's working later. And in fact, not only are we moving towards electric cars, but we're not going to do gas cars. So they're saying we're not even going to do the thing that brings us the most profit. Like we're moving away from that, done. To move their company forward because they are not the most valuable car company, which is just crazy, where you have companies like Ford and GE who, everybody talks about, once you're a monster in the market, there's no stopping. It's all weighted towards you, but it is and it isn't. I mean, they're all right, right? They're doing okay. The CEOs and the high up management, they're getting paid and they got nice 401ks and all that stuff. So it's not that rough, but they're not the top dog, even though they came into the game much further ahead than some of these electric startups.
I also want to say that's something pretty amazing about China, Because again, you have to look at culture.
Mm.
They came from nothing. So they didn't have in their data banks, this is not how you do it, you know? And a lot of times in the West, like I beat my head for years, for 15 years, I beat my head trying to find a fashion brand who would collaborate with me. I did augmented reality in 2010 with HP. Couldn't find a brand anywhere who would do it, right? I then pioneered like a whole VR.
Why do you think that was back in 2010?
What we just talked about, like everything is good. Why do we need to do things this way? Like who's gonna need that? Nobody's asking. This is the key thing.
It's hard to sell.
They say until our customer asks us for it, we don't do it. And like I've talked to fashion brands that are like that, and I'm like, you know what? See you in the graveyard. You know, you are going to be caught out in the pandemic without your shorts on, right? And so, you know, that was a very frustrating period in my life where I thought, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get anywhere. You know, I had a huge, amazing team. We were pioneering augmented reality, virtual reality. Couldn't find a single customer. Had to let the whole team go. But you know what's really kind of crazy? Everybody wants VR now. I've done all of it. I've built all of it. I know how it's architectured. And for me to like whip it out of my pocket right now, and I even have the videos from before as the demos, you know, that I can put up. I'm going to put them up on my website. And I'm going to start doing AR, VR for fashion. And it's so easy for me because I did it the hard way before. So I'm even learning that all things work together for good. I really, that is being strengthened inside of me. And, you know, but there was that period where I really was like, I have all this knowledge in my head and I can do all these things and there's nobody out there who needs it. That's a very depressing place to be. I have to tell you, you know, that's, I've faced that, but
well, I think there's so many people, right? So many, you know, the guy, what was it? The guy that created the windshield wiper and he knew he had something, but you know, the industry was just like, nope, we don't need that. You know, our windshield wiper is fine. And then, you know, then they of course stole it from him, which I think, you know, when you get into tech and all that, there's always that fear. I think whoever you are, creative, you write poetry, you're an artist, you're a fashion designer. I don't want to put out my design or my thing because somebody might steal it. So you're holding back, but you also like, you know, you believe in what it's such a complicated space to be creative and know what the future looks like or know what it could potentially look like and try to sell that and work with that. I know it's got to be a ball of challenges.
So, I mean, of course, until you talk about with somebody, you never really think like, oh, that is true. I actually did think about that. But everything that I've ever done, people have told me, no, you can't do that. No, that won't work. No, that's not right. For example, I had this huge bell going off in my head in 2004 of like, go to China, go to China, go to China, go to China. And I was like, who's talking to me? You know, like, they don't even live in thatch huts in China, you know, 2005, go to China, go to China, go to China. I was like, who, shut up, you know, whoever is like putting it in my head, be quiet, you know, 2005, go to China, go to China, go to China. I was like, be quiet, right? But then I watched Gold and I realized about a year and a half in advance that we were headed for the huge Mongo economic crisis. And I thought, you know, I analyzed the world and I thought, where can I go to hide out? I have a portfolio of covers of magazines and, you know, worked with all the top clients in the world. But everybody knows me in the West. Where can I go and monetize this book? That's in modeling. You have a book, you know, your portfolio, right? And then I saw, Olympics. people are going to want to do advertising. There's going to be an influx of money. They're going to be building up their, infrastructure. Okay, I'm going to China, and then the minute that I was like, I'm going to China, everyone was like, you can't go to China. There's nothing in China. There's no fashion in China. That's they live in thatch huts and eat dogs. Like, you can't go to China. And I was like, I have to go to China. So I did a bad deal with my agent in London because they folded and they owed me 4,000 pounds, Great British pounds. And I was like, I overheard my booker talking to someone about sending a girl to China. And I was like, you owe me 4,000 Great British pounds and you're closing your agency and you're clearly not going to pay me. So you owe me and you are going to tell me how to get to China. And he's like, don't tell your mother agency, because of my mother agency at the time, I was making them, again, we're back to, I was making them buku bucks, right? They didn't want me going anywhere, right? They wanted me to stay right there and keep, pounding that money, right? And instead I was like, all right, I'm going to China. So he gave me the contact. I negotiated my own contract. I got to China. I got the highest contract they had ever given another model. And I became China's top foreign model. But I had hatched up a strategic plan. I was like, okay, I'll go to China. I'll become China's top foreign model. Then I had this game called Anina Dress Up. And I was like, then everyone will play my game. And I'll revolutionize the fashion industry from the top down. Now, I have to tell you that naivete in a certain way gets you a long way. And I think you know this. If you were an entrepreneur and you would know everything that you would have to go through in advance, you'd never walk out your door and you'd never
you get an analysis paralysis. Yeah.
Right? You'd be like, I'm never doing that, right? But the plan kind of made sense in my head, and I was like, yeah. And there are 1.3 billion people who know what a blog is, that play mobile games. They all have cell phones. That's the future. They're just going to get a whole bunch of cash. And so I analyzed all of that, which may seem kind of ridiculous to you and infantile of how I worked it out in my brain, but actually not. I was right. And again, how did I get my chance to work with and do amazing things with, the National Garment Association? You know how? I was top model, so I literally worked 3 jobs a day and slept 4 hours a day every day for like 60 to 120 days, and then they would give me 1 day off, 7 days a week, And on that one day, they told me in the agency in between, they were like, I saw all these other models going on these like, model competitions, and they seemed so ridiculous. They seemed like perfect blog food, like terrible stories and perfect blog food, and I was like, I want to go on a model competition. And they're like, you're a top model. You can't go on a model competition. And I was like, I want to go on a model competition. I need that for my blog, And they were like, okay, you have 1 day free. It paid like $100, And I went on that job. And let me tell you, this is a perfect analogy. Here's what happened. It was a very hot day. We were all in Lao Tzu's house in Shandong province, and it was with the government, and they were making a fashion show outside in the blazing sun, and they had invited a whole bunch of people, and it was in celebration of Lao Tzu's birthday or something like that, and all the models sat in the bus complaining that it was too hot. But me, on the other hand, when they said it's time to ring the bell, I was ringing the bell with the minister, When they said it's time to do, dress, I was like first one in line. When they said it's, time to greet the people and smile, I was greeting the people and smiling, because that's professionalism, right? And you know what? I was sitting on the wall of Lao Tzu's house, and 3 guys in like pink polo shirts come up to me, and they said, We like you. You have excellent attitude. We shall see more of you. And then they walked away. And I was like, okay, well, they were the political leaders of the sector of the government that controls all the modeling, all the acting, all the actresses, all of that. And then that's how I literally, no joke, I got the award as China's top foreign model, the only fashion model in the history of China ever to receive an award. And because normally they'd only give it to Chinese fashion models. And then I almost missed it because I was in Paris on a job and I missed the flight and I had to sleep on the floor and beg everybody to let me on the plane. And my friend was like holding the place in the competition, and she's like on the phone and I'm in the taxi and there's crazy traffic and she's like, they're about to call your name. I'm like, I'm in the taxi. And I literally like walk through the door and she's like, walk onto the stage. They just called your name. And I walked onto the stage, took the award, posed for the camera, smiled, got the shot. You see what I mean? Like all of that.
That's a whole lot of showing up. Yeah, absolutely.
Couldn't have happened had I not slept on the floor, begged to get on the plane, talked to people and said, I have this award. Can you give me your seat? It was a lot of effort.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, but I mean, I love that, it's the consistency, it's the showing up. It's well-deserved. I think that's awesome. Talk to me about, you're operating your business in China, right? It's a little bit of a different structure, to say the least, right? You talk about, you have sectors of the government that control pieces of it. For folks that are wanting to do business in China, what would be your advice to them?
Number one, go get a Chinese intern on your team. They will be able to, first of all, speak the language. They will be able to tell you about the culture. I have to admit that even though I am here, I pretty much before a pandemic went from, apartment to studio, back to apartment, over to some big client, government office, and back. I don't really have a social circle here. And so I think that once I, moved over from modeling and started working on my business, I still always model. I just did a movie, feature film and stuff like that. But I do that more because I want to use my name and my image to encourage other women to get into tech, and so I feel like that angle of Anina, the techie model, like if I'm supposed to be the stupidest person, models are stupid, right? That whole bad paradigm, which is so not true.
Right.
If that's the truth, then if I can do tech, anyone can do tech, right? There's no excuses anymore, right? So that's a little bit, I play a little bit on that. Plus, to be honest, modeling and tech and entrepreneurship really balance, because when I'm on the internet, I spend 15 hours on computer. I'm very focused. It's actually really nice to get out on a shoot and do something creative and do something that I'm very good at, that makes me feel powerful, makes me feel confident, makes me feel proud of myself. And then I can take that back in. So I think it's really important for entrepreneurs to have something, whether it's a sport or whether it's your kids or, no matter what it is, to have something that when your business and things are not going the way you want, couldn't find a client for AR, for years. So had to give that one up and let it die, right? But when that's going on, you have something that still is building you up inside and edifying you. That can be your spiritual practice, all that stuff. You cannot give up and just lie in bed. Even if you want to, you have to find ways to trick yourself into believing in yourself, and to believing in your mission. And and nobody can do that for you but you, because you know you best, right? You gotta know you. You got to know you.
I love the aspect of, first of all, multiple revenue streams is always a great idea for everybody, right? You know, having different ways to bring money into your centers, right? Your bank account, your business. And then the idea that, you know, I think anybody, you know, we've been talking a lot about like breaking the closed loop, right? You know, the idea of everything's fine. I just do this. I get on this treadmill and or this hamster wheel, and it's spinning. Everything's good. I don't need to worry about, you know, outside, you know, stuff going on. So getting out of that, right? Finding ways to make sure that you're seeing other parts of the world, and you don't just have the blinders on for both your own personal, like spiritual health, but also for your business health, and understanding, you know, what are the winds of change coming at you and how to stay ahead of the curve. I think one of the things that, you know, is really cool about, you know, really professional professions like, you know, being a doctor, a lawyer, they require continuing education. You know, we could probably have a whole nother side, you know, conversation on whether that's really effective enough, but at least there's this idea that, you know, once you get into your career after you've had your education, it's not done. Right? We're going to continue to learn new things. There's going to be different things that come into the industry. Different laws are being made, different medicine is being produced. Like, it's not static. It's not going to be this one thing. And so many folks get into it, right? It's why, you know, the typewriter business didn't turn into the computer business, because they're like, what is computer nonsense and stuff? I remember with the phones, and I was one of those people too. Like, I'm not going to use a touch screen. I need buttons for my fingers, right? You know, like we see it all of the time, right? This idea of like, we're going to stay in old frameworks and not really think about moving to something different, right?
And you know that I constantly have to fight against that myself. Like, I'm sure you're experiencing the same thing. You're like, TikTok. Like, I don't want to get on the camera and like do a stupid little dance, like, but that's showing my.
So for me myself, I've been advocating TikTok because I watch like, Gary Vee, but so many people, and I find it personally tough. I know that it's a powerful platform, but it's been tough for me to actually utilize it. You know, this is, you know, what is this? This is episode 182 of this show that I do, you know, Monday through Friday. But for some reason, I can't get on TikTok and upload a minute. But that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, I'm advocating TikTok. Saying, but like, so many people are like, TikTok? Like, I don't need another thing. But they're doing the same thing with Clubhouse right now. I don't need another thing. Don't you want to promote your business? Don't you want to build relationships? Don't you want to be where the trends are going? You start asking those questions. Of course. And then you say, but shouldn't you be on Club? I don't need another thing.
But I mean, I think that, again, you know, a lot of people ask me here to be on TikTok, and I don't want to do it like, you know, doing the little dances and stuff, because that is not meeting my idea of, you know, my paradigm of what, you know, professionalism looks like. But again, that's a perfect sign that the world has moved on. The world doesn't want this veneer of perfectionism that, you know, the you know, 1980s, 1990s, you know, 2020s, people don't want that. Now people want you and your authentic self to show up, and they'd like to know that you're fun and personable, you know. So it's not like I need to go on TikTok. I could go on TikTok, but what I'm trying to explain is that in my mind, I've stayed in the past of an image of what it means to present myself. But in reality, the world has moved on. And now what I learned is that, you know, on that platform, it's really about being silly and showing your human humorous side and having the courage of not appearing stupid. But you see how my brain has remained stuck in a past.
We're sort of the same. Like, I'm trying to get my, because you can show up on that platform in so many different ways. There's no really wrong way to do it. And so the only wrong way to do it is just not to do it at all, right? The idea that, here's this amazing channel that you can get some amazing following. And if you don't do it, guaranteed that you won't be successful. But if you do, it's really wonderful. And I also think, for those folks, just to provide value, right? Because I see there's some people that do put out videos and they're fairly consistent with it and they're not gaining a ton of traction. So I think, like business, right? If you get into business and you want to sell a product, there's certain best practices. And with social media, there's certain best practices. How are you building community? How are you mentioning people? How are you highlighting and showcasing other people? How do you engage with other people? It's social media. How are you being social with the platform? So many platforms, when we got started in them, I was early on Twitter and I sort of moved away from it. The reason that people typically do is that the platform becomes everybody with their own megaphone and the community aspect sort of goes away. So what are you doing to build community? If you're building community, and I know you're really great at this, Anina, you've done it, I've just kind of met you through Clubhouse and I saw you doing it right away. And, now, following you on Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So I can see it, but you've built community, you're supporting people, you highlight other, brands and showcase things, and you're building community, which is why I think you've had a ton of success on social media. I'll let you speak more on it.
Well, I do think there are, probably people who have more followers than me or whatever, but it's about authenticity. Are the people following me people who are really interested in what I'm doing? I do hear some feedback. I don't know if you hear a double feedback on
No, we're good on my end.
Okay, great.
And for everybody watching, Anina's coming to me at midnight in China, and so we got a lot of wires in between us. But I think this speaks well. I mean, trying to do something like this 20 years ago, I think might have been pretty impossible. Doing a live show that people could actually interact with in real time. So I'm really happy with where we are with tech. So it's pretty good. Continue, Anina.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say it's not about me being on TikTok or not on TikTok. It's about how am I showing up authentically and what do I want to give, right? And so right now you have to look at the world. The world is in lockdown. Everybody that I talk to, they're like, yeah, we're in lockdown. I just talked to Janet Peleg today in Israel. She's like, yeah, we're on total lockdown now. I can't go out of my house, Talking to everybody, it's like that. And so everybody is having the opportunity to tech up right now and to learn new skills. So again, social media used to be you talking about your life and people doing voyeurism and escaping theirs and living it through you. Now the world is not like that. Now, what do you have to help people? Because right now, the skills that we're going to need coming out of, the pandemic and the skills that we had going into the pandemic are not the same skills anymore. And people are really struggling because they got really comfortable in what they were doing. And now they have to learn a whole new paradigm. Whereas instead, if they had been doing, little experiments, the leap to the new technologies wouldn't have been so far, right? They would.
I love that. I love that so much. Repeat that for folks, because I think that's, if anybody takes anything away from the day, and I know this has been like a kind of a theme, the idea of sampling and just really pushing yourself a little outside of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be big leaps with this little sample. Go ahead, just say that one more time for folks, because I think that provides tremendous value.
Right. So, for example, dealing with new technologies, you know, if people had been making experiments, trying a little AR, testing it out, seeing how it works, putting out a campaign, you know, then these new skills that we all need coming out of the pandemic versus the old skills that we have, this leap wouldn't have been so big because they would have been comfortable and familiar with those, you know, little trials and tests. And they, you know, kind of like going to the gym, they would have been lifting 5 pounds, you know, 10 pounds, you know, 20 pounds. And then, you know, when this happens and they leaped ahead, you know, then that leap isn't so far. And not only that, but you have a lot of power. You're like, oh, like right now, I can do things that people really can't do, but I can do them in AR, VR, 3D printing, you know, all kinds of IoT solutions and everything because I did them in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 11, 12, you know, I've had all that time to be practicing. So for me to whip up an AR campaign, and it takes me like an hour, not even.
That's wild.
You know, for me to set up an online event, because I decided in 2019 after traveling, I was like with all these robotic dresses to New York Fashion Week and LA Fashion Week and did a big exhibition at Bloomingdale's. And I was like, I am not doing any more offline events. This is too hard. I said 2020 is the year I do only online events. And so I invested heavily in all this online event and streaming software and my accountant called me up and was like, stop buying software. You're going bankrupt, you know? But I was like, no, I just need to try one more. I need to find the best solutions, the easiest solutions.
You're breaking up, Anina. So I know that she's going down the road talking about all these different solutions, which I think a lot of people in 2020 were looking for.
I had already decided. Everybody told me again, no, we don't want to do it online. What? No, you know? So I just really never listened to anybody but myself. And I know there are cases when you need to listen to other people and you need to take into account. But in the end, the only way to lose is to not do it. And you said that, you know, you have to do it. And be the last Mohican standing. Like, that's really what it comes down to. You know, are you willing and able to be the last Mohican standing? It's been proven again and again and again in history that the people who hung in there until, you know, everybody had wireless charging. I'm just using that as an example, you know, people that hung in there until the moment came, right? And I know that's hard. I know, because I have had Akamai servers of $15,000 per month when I was doing live streaming in Europe with Vodafone and France Telecom, and I had all these reporters going to the fashion weeks with mobile phones, and I mean, people threatening to bludgeon my head in because I didn't have professional equipment. And you know, anytime you're going to break the system, everybody's going to tell you no. I have learned that that's almost like you saying, yes, I need to go and be the salmon swimming against the stream, you know? And at the same time, you have to know, I'm like, okay, I give up. Like, I can't support this team anymore. But then
I was gonna say,
here we are, back
just
at zero.
To add to your thing, because you're, you know, especially the modeling industry, it's like everything's about being cool, and having the big, you know, camera with the photo lens was cool, right? That was like, it's not, and you know, this is something that, you know, you see over and over again. Not only is it cool, it's a thing that says, I have a certain status.
My little phone at the time, you know, I was like this, in the photography pit, and they're like, "Aren't you Anina the model? Aren't you supposed to be on the catwalk?" I was like, "Yeah, I got this new project. It's called 360 Fashion." And they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a mobile phone. I'm live streaming to 1.3 million people on Vodafone Network." And they're like, "What?" And you know, it just, they couldn't comprehend it. But there will always be those people who give you the chance. I was blessed by, you know, Randy Brooke and Pierre Biazon, and taking me under their wing. You see, in the photo pit, there's those that are in the center, and then those that are shoot from the sides. Those that shoot from the sides are like newbies and like not the VIPs. Those that have the dead center, they're the super photographers, right? And so Randy Brooke would be like, "Come over here." And I just sit down under his big telephoto lens, you know, with my phone, you know, and he would help me, you know. And the same thing, like so many, Pierre Biazon, the same. He's like, come here, you know, squeeze in here. And then he'd be like, "Can you move to the side? Anina needs to get in there." And then I'd be like, you know. So there will always be the person who gives you the chance. And the same, when I was in China, after that whole, like, I won the award and everything, I got called into the office of this big table, and they were like, "What do you really do?" And I was like, you know, whipped out my portfolio on my iPad and was like, "Actually, I do all this tech stuff, you know, and augmented reality and virtual reality and beacons and interactivity, and the whole world is going to turn into this interactive thing." And they were like, "We don't understand it, but I feel it is the right direction. Can you build an exhibition?" And that is really I have to say, the power of China, and that people don't realize, is that they have no data banks of like how it should be done. So they are open to trying new things. And I think that is the problem with Europe in specific, but also with the United States. Again, it comes back to the body being safe, wanting to be safe. Those are caveman things. I have them too, you know, like some days I sit here and I'm like, I have no idea. Now that robot is done, how am I going to get out of here and get home? You know, I live part-time in San Francisco and part-time in China, depending on what I'm manufacturing or what I'm doing, right? And so now I'm like, how do I exit from here? There are no flights. There's, you know, I don't know what to do, right? Where do I go? There's no safe place, except actually this is the safest place where there is, to be honest, you know? So, you know, again, analysis, analyzing what's going on, looking around, talking to people, and then really going inside and being like, you know, what is the best decision here? And then no matter what anybody else tells you, you know, I almost feel like that focus and that strength and that idea and that vision was so clear in every single situation. Like, I'm going to go to China and become China's top foreign model, and everybody's going to play my game, and I'm going to revolutionize the industry from the top down. It all happened because I kept, you know, that focus, that vision. I cultivated it. I focused on it. You know, I imagined it even when I didn't see it happening, you know, and sometimes it's so long. Like, I did AR in 2010. I was like so depressed for the longest time because I was like, no one is ever going to need my skills. Even when I was like doing the robot, I was sitting there in last year and I was thinking, besides the events, you know, that I did that was giving value, I was like, I have no skills that anybody needs. Like, my skills are all like of the future. Who needs a robot with a IoT jacket that connects to the smart hotel system, and you can change the lights and change the music and change the temperature and call a robot. Like, nobody needs that right now. Nobody, right? But I guarantee you there will be somebody out there that will hear me talking about it and be like, you know what? I want that. I want to give that a shot, And if I can hang in there long enough, I guarantee you the need will come, because I have done the analysis. I've watched the trends. I know where the technology is going. I know what's being built on the infrastructure side. It is unavoidable.
That's amazing.
That's the thing. It is unavoidable. I guess it's because I know so much about infrastructure, and I worked with so many big tech companies, so I know what's coming and the environment that they're providing for us. That's the same thing. Like, why do we have 5G? We have 5G so that we can download 3D objects, animations, and stuff. Why do we need to do that? Because it is no longer viable for the planet to pre-manufacture things and then have a warehouse of them sitting there with no one to sell them to, because what you made has one tiny flaw that people didn't like, and you can't unmanufacture it. So the much better way to do things is to first manufacture it virtually, test it out. Do you want it? Make adjustments to it. When people are like, yeah, pre-sell it, I know they want it, then you go manufacture it, and you've already sold it, so you even know how many widgets to manufacture. That's the world we're moving into, because the planet can no longer support.
And from the customer side of it,
planet can no longer support stuff.
From the customer side of it, you get the customization. You get the thing that you exactly want, you exactly asked for. You feel like a more special individual because you're getting something that was made especially for you. I think, one of the ways that we've seen that on a wide scale is things like with the, Apple iPad, where they're, putting the name on the back of each one, like laser cutting it. It's a small little thing, but it's a great, way to talk about what we're doing. Obviously, they have a product that people want. So that's a beautiful thing, but then they're, taking it a further step and customizing it. And I'm really interested, because there's tons of waste in the fashion industry. So it'd be really, really interesting to see what you're talking about play out with, all right, now we're not just, throwing these, spring bathing suit things at the wall and the fall fashion shoots at the wall and just hoping that something sticks, but you got something that not only are you able to go to customers and ask what they want, but you can sort of see the trends, look at the data, and very much to your point that you made earlier is know what people are looking for before they even know that they want it, which I think is a big deal in the fashion industry. That's always been a big deal, but you have more data than ever before. You have, the body types, the weather, the this, the that, you can put all of that into play and ship the right things to the right places. D2C is so huge, right? Direct to consumer. For big fashion brands that have typically had to deal with. I mean, it's unfortunate. It's very sad to see, I have my local Macy's that's shutting down, and it's very sad. But on the other end of it, my wife who, said, no, I'm never going to buy something online. I wouldn't do that, is ordering online from Macy's. So yes, it's a very different thing. And it's sad, when some of the businesses that are local close down, but you have this whole idea of, all right, how many more creative jobs get to exist and how many less? And it's sad, right? You have folks that, make their living being a cashier, but you don't really use your creative brain standing up all day at a cash register dealing with client after client. It's not something that in the end provides a lot of value to the customer. You're essentially just a gatekeeper. You're saying, okay, you have to go through me before you go out the door. What happens in a world where you put your phone up, put the QR code or whatever, the RFT tag, pay for the item, walk out the store. It's already happening, right? You go to 42nd Street, the Chrysler building where I had my offices just before the pandemic. You go down to the Amazon Go store. There's no cashier. You go in, you pick a piece of food off the shelf, you walk out the door. It feels like stealing. There's cameras and it charges your cat. It's already happening. So it's really cool to sort of keep your mind on the future, know that that's where we're going, and all of the opportunities that brings for people to be creative and really produce more and do less of the standing around and just holding something. We get into a lot of conversations with equity because there's still people shipping, and now, in terms of empathy, I think we have to be a very empathetic world and understand the value of people, because now you're not going to see a lot of the people that deliver the service for you. You're not going to see the creators. You're not going to see it. At least when you walked in the store, you sort of saw at least somebody in the mix, but now you're just waiting at home and everything's very far off. So I think, the next iteration of the world is like, how do we be more empathetic to see people that we're not actually in contact with, which is a whole nother conversation that I don't want to get into now, but I think it's something that, is really important both for, fashion oriented businesses and every other kind of business, right? Go ahead.
But I have a theory about those shop floor people. For example, again, technology to the rescue, right? They're not going to lose their jobs if they're smart about it. There's a company called LuxLock, for example, that's a technology, that's a chat that plugs into an e-commerce site. Now, why do I want to talk to that shop floor assistant? Because I walk in, and the most efficient way for me to find what I want is to walk up to the shop floor person and be like, I'm looking for this. And then they take me right there, right? Rather than me like wandering around trying to read signs and all that garbage. I just want to get in, get my thing, and get out. And the most efficient way is a human in that scenario, right? Well, the same thing online doesn't take away that problem. Now I go to a website, I can't even like walk around, get lost, and let my intuition lead me in a certain sense, right? I have to look at 2D flat images and try to put an outfit together and try to find something to buy as a gift. Nightmare, really nightmare.
Yeah.
But again, with LuxLock, this technology can plug into the e-commerce store. And then the beauty of it is all those shop floor assistants that are no longer working in the store, now they can do the same job online, but they have to learn new skills. Now they have to learn how in the back end to put pictures together and to chat with people to help them find what they're looking for, right? And then put it in the chat, and help them in this sort of virtual way. It's the same thing. They know the product best. They know every single product that brand.
Yeah, it's moving the
brand salespersons,
moving the
right?
curator of moving the curator of your shoe experience when you walk into the shoe store, moving that curated experience where they say, oh, let me suggest this, and let me suggest this one for you, to the digital platform. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And see, the thing is though, will the human want to learn the new skill? Again, being comfortable in what you know.
Yeah, it's not a question if they will. If you want a job and you want to work, and it's going to be figuring it out. I think where the U.S. government, Chinese government, governments of the world come into play is, there's a lot of talk about re-education and job, going into the workforce and providing opportunity. I haven't seen a lot of great programs personally that do that. So it's, bringing maybe some of the tech folks in and saying, hey, these are some of the opportunities exist. Here's a big colorful basket that allows you to kind of go towards the thing that you want. Because I think a lot of people feel like they're pigeonholed. Oh, I got to go do this now. I got to do this now. There's so many different options. So it's putting it out there and letting people kind of let their creative juices lead the way, but without that kind of broad program, which we have more ability to do now than ever before, right? Because we can decentralize education. So it doesn't have to be, I live close to a city called White Plains, New York. You're in Shanghai, right? So it doesn't have to be the Shanghai thing. It doesn't have to be the White Plains thing or the New York City thing. It can be, we have a global community of educators that can teach you every kind of thing that you want. And then you'll have curators of that experience as well, right? Whoa, okay, what are your skill sets? Let me suggest these things. I think these would be really great because there'll be people that'll be knowledgeable of that. I think that is definitely something to keep an eye on and not something that I was thinking about before. So thank you, Anina. I think that's going to be something very cool if we can push people into that direction. All right, so we're at 12:15 Eastern time, probably about 1:15 a.m. in Shanghai. Is that right? So I want to kind of wrap this up and let you get to sleep.
So you know.
Oh, in Beijing, sorry.
But I have to say that there's this big debate. People kind of say mean things to me when I tell them I build robots, because then I tell them it's a luxury robot and then somehow feel better because it's, not something menacing and, it's a beautiful object of art, of beauty that fits into the surroundings, right? So again, the same thing is like I looked around at all the robots being made and they're just ugly. They look like washing machines on wheels, or they look like scary ghosts with big googly eyes, They don't fit into the smart hotel environment at all. Like they're not even the color scheme of the hotel, right? And so I created this beautiful robot with this stylish jacket, like, one that you're wearing, beautiful jacket that connects to the internet. And you could say, people said like, oh, but you're going to kill all the jobs in the hotel. And I'm like, no, what's going to happen is the same thing that's happening right now. There is going to come robots that will do jobs that human beings don't want to do and doesn't make sense for us to do. I mean, we are the master computers of the planet. There is nothing more sophisticated than us out there. Like this biochemical suit that we wear is just miraculous. The fact that every single fingerprint is different. You go figure out how that's possible. I don't know how that's possible, okay? Like not even duplicatable in any lab anywhere at any time, okay? So there's no way that a robot is going to replace a human. What we're moving into is human and machine are going to be working together to be more efficient and solve problems more efficiently, okay, for the next 100 years, basically, right? And the problem is that when they made computers, they taught them this cuckoo language. They don't speak human, right? And then humans, nobody taught us to speak computer, right? And so now we're entering into this age where humans and machines need to work together. So it's not that my service robot that carries drinks is going to replace somebody standing for 24 hours in a lobby offering somebody a drink. No, that person instead is going to have to be re-educated and learn higher level computing and skills, okay? And then let the stupid robot with the brain of a cockroach, not even, cockroaches are way more sophisticated and intelligent than computers are right now, okay? Let that dude, let my luxury cart bot stand there serving people drinks 24 hours a day, 12 hours a day and a recharge, while the human needs to go and learn higher computing skills, because what we're good at in human land is high computational stuff because we have 6 senses, way more. Now, crunching numbers is a very droll job, should be left to the computers who can do it super fast because they speak binary, right? We don't speak binary. We don't speak in ones and zeros. We don't think in zeros and ones. We don't think in math. There are people that do, but they're few and far between, right? Let the computers do that job. The problem comes is that people don't want to be re-educated. And you mentioned that the government should come in and save us all, which is such a bizarre concept to me because in the end, there's only you. It's you. It's you and you and you and you and you. There's nobody but you. There's nobody but us. And if you look now at the boom in online education, okay, everybody's trying to learn social media and increase their power, but that will move on. I'm even setting up a fashion tech academy, to teach the fashion industry the new skills that they need in the future, right? And so the point is that there's this gap, there's this gap that we will enter into, that we're entering into between what was and what is, and the leap is quite far for some people, right? And so that's up to you and me and all the people listening for us to educate and bring forward and not leave anyone behind for any reason into this future, right? And so I just truly believe that we are in this moment. We're entering in, 2020 was the first toe in. It's going to keep going. But this shift, unfortunately, is happening now. Why is it happening? Because the planet can no longer do things the way we did before. So we need to change the way we do things. And we need machines to help us do that change. So it is difficult. You'll say self-driving cars, they eliminate the jobs of the truck drivers. Sorry, truck driver, you need to go now and learn new skills that are different than what you learned before. And probably because of your age, you're more resistant to doing things the new way than the way you lived your life for the last 25 to 50 years, right? So
yeah,
I get it.
Let me offer a little bit of a different take on that, because I think this might be helpful to you too in selling some of the stuff. I own a hospitality company. I've been a waiter for the last bartender, waiter for the last 24 years. Own a company that sends out waiters, bartenders, chefs, kitchen assistants. Nobody from my staff is fighting to go hold a tray of heavy drinks out, waiting for the crowd to arrive, and sitting there in the middle of the crowd as that drink tray becomes empty. And now we have to fight our way back and then go and, break our back again to hold out that tray of drinks, waiting for the next crowd to arrive, right? I think what is sort of threatening, is, this idea of we have to re-educate ourselves, the idea that, we may not have a position because we'll be replaced. So that understanding of, at least for me, where I see humans is really valuable is that we are able to see somebody's face and provide care, right? We can be very useful when we are empathetic to our guest, right? We can see things. So it's getting comfortable with understanding, and I think this is where tech can come in. Like, we can have the robot waiters, and maybe each waiter is assisted by one or two robot waiters where they can bring the drinks. They take care of that stuff. They take care of the stuff that's just going from point A to point B in a fashion that literally a robot could do. Where we come into play is we're able to call it, right? We're like, quarterbacks on the field, so to speak. We're able to call the plays. All right, we know we need to move this. You get to really design the customer experience. So I think, it's just like really just like language, right? Because you go to the truck drivers and it's the same thing. Where's the truck driver really, really valuable? It's not on the 300 miles from point A to point B that they're driving on the road. Where they're really coming in valuable is the load in process, the load out process, the making sure that, all of things. So if you're operating from a drone or you're just, sleeping in the cab and you get to be there at the point in, your job becomes so much easier. Maybe you're able to handle logistics. Maybe you're able to become a trucker and a salesperson because you're operating in the field office. You get to shake the hands, so I think it's thinking creatively and really, it's tough. Like for somebody that says, all right, I'm going to go from being a truck driver where I feel like I'm in control of my destiny to being some operator of technology. I think that's hard. But I think where humans really excel is in the customer service. Now, there's a lot of folks that are like not great at customer service. So they're not looking forward to that being the major aspect of their job. But, where we're creative, right? Anybody that's in school right now, I'm going to tell them, listen, make sure that you're learning some fine arts, make sure you're learning some visual design, because, the world of just pushing buttons and, that's your job and that's what you get paid for, that's kind of going to go out. What are you doing to actually make things look better, to feel better, to provide a better experience, right?
Oh, you said it so much better than me. That is so well said. And who would have told you, back in when you were in high school, your parents, just like my parents, never wanted me to be a fashion model. They were like, you're rotting your brain, and they tried to force me not to become a fashion model, right? But that has enabled me to become who I am, because I deeply understand the fashion industry and I understand technology, right? And so, who would have told you, oh, don't be an artist, you'll never make any money. Well, who's making all the money now? Artists and musicians and creative people and fashion designers. Maybe they're not making clothes, but they have an eye for style. They know what looks good. They can help with imagery, branding, so many things, which are the skills that we need right now and today, right? And so, yeah, I just really, really want to encourage anybody out there, the road of following your own self is tough. But if you truly believe in your vision and you focus on it, I, until today, have achieved all of the things that I said I would do. And now it's just mind-boggling to me that augmented reality, virtual reality, all these things that I thought I failed at, now everybody needs those skills, Yeah. And so I constantly have to step out of my comfort zone. I want to be safe too, I want someone to take care of me. We all grew up with maybe that idea, but there is only you. There's
absolutely.
You. It's you. Who will make this world better? It's you. It's you. It's me. It's all of us.
Absolutely. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yep.
All right. Talk to us about this digital fashion online conference that you got coming up. When's the date? How can people register for this thing? Where should they go?
Thank you so much, Cameron. Digital fashion online conference. You're going to not just learn about fashion. Okay, I just do fashion because fashion's cool, but you're going to learn about technology from leading technologists in the world. You can go to my Instagram, which is Anina Net, and you can click on the link in the bio and you can sign up for the newsletter, or you can go to 360fashion.net and you can also sign up there for the newsletter. And any day now, I'm just going to push out the, save the date. It's March 28th and 29th. And you will get notified. And I have an amazing speaker lineup of people who really are forging the future. And I highly recommend anyone in any industry to have a look at what's going on so that you're aware of it.
Beautiful. I just wanted to show off the Instagram profile here, so folks find Anina here, and then you're going to go to the link in bio, and I gotta actually share that separately. Technology. There we go.
Thank you, Cameron. I really love. I didn't see any comments, but you see at the top there it says digital fashion get notified. Yep. So just go there and enter your name and email, and I'll be shooting an email out soon because I'm about to announce the first amazing speakers. And please come if you're on Clubhouse to our Fashion Tech Talks. It's every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome, and everyone is allowed to come in and tell their opinions and share. It's a round table, not a hierarchy. And I want to thank you so much, Cameron, for allowing me to speak with your audience. And please reach out to me. Tell me that I'm wrong. Tell me that I'm right. Share your experience because, I get lonely and I would love to have more friends.
So I know Anina's stranded in Beijing for a little bit while longer, looking to get back into San Francisco when things are good. I know it's nice, at least for me. I have a hospitality business, so I'm just waiting for things to open up on that front. But it feels like there is a light at the end of the tunnel that's coming, and we just got to be patient, and it'll come. And I think we kind of started this conversation on how do you make sure that you're leveraged and prepared for whatever may come. So hopefully this has been great learning for everybody. Don't forget the lesson. There's going to be more adversity and challenges, whether it's a year or 2 or 10. We know the world is constantly changing, and there'll be something that will create adversity in your business. But hopefully you'll follow Anina's example and set some great goals and make sure that you're sampling and trying things. I think those were really great notes of takeaway today. Thank you so much for doing this with me, Anina. Please say goodbye to our folks and tell them one more time where they can reach you.
Thank you so much, everyone. My website is Anina.net, or you can reach out to me at 360fashion.net, or I hang out a lot on Clubhouse and Instagram, but my DMs are always open. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share some of my life's lessons, and I look forward to learn more every day, So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anina.
Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is intelligent. If you watch it, I promise you benefit. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz Dev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T.